Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Bible. My name is Rogan, and today we are beginning the book of Deuteronomy. And because we have quite a bit to cover, may as well bring out the bomb. Today I've got something a little different. I took notes. That was a particularly good hit. Oh, man. But as I was reviewing what I had previously reviewed before, because it had been quite a while, I realized why I had reviewed so much. And it was because I couldn't fucking stop. For all the uniquenesses and changes that I saw. Let me explain. You see, the book of Deuteronomy is the fifth in the Torah, written by Moses. So they're coming down to the end of their journey. Getting into the promised land. They've already started making their way towards it. They're not technically in it, which doesn't really make sense why they're having to fight so many people and commit genocide along the way. But yes, Moses is getting close to dying at this point, and he has gathered the children of Israel around him. And as I was reading through here this second time, I realized something rather peculiar about the things that I had highlighted here, as well as other things that I knew within the Bible. And it's like these puzzle pieces just formed together. And I started to ask myself this question that some people might find rather blasphemous, but if they know the definition of the word and they've read the Bible as thoroughly as I have, they might share this question. The question being, is Moses and or Yahweh a bit of a narcissist? And we're going to answer that today. Now, before we dive into the Bible stories and all that and what all is going down here, because we do have some differences and things to look at along the way, but also some fun things to notice here and there. But before we do that, we're gonna be looking for what a narcissist is along the way. And before we can do that, we need to clarify what exactly a narcissist is. So, without any further ado, here are the top 8 characteristics or traits of what defines a narcissist. 1, they have an unhealthy sense of self-importance. 2, they have a preoccupation or addiction for power. 3, they can only be around people who are important or special. 4, they are manipulative. 5, they're arrogant or entitled. I feel like that's kind of the same. feeling like they always know better, never listening to or giving other people a chance. Not really having any sense of humility. Number 6, they must be admired. Number 7, they lack empathy. And number 8, they are envious of others or think they are being envied. So, let's go through here. It's only the first 3 chapters. But it's just so interesting what we have here. So right off the bat, the very first thing I noticed in the very first chapter of the book of Deuteronomy is verse 31, where God is speaking. Moses is speaking to the children of Israel, and he is actually having a recap moment. He is retelling things that happened. To give them, I guess, to give them all just reminders of what's gone down. Maybe bringing up some of the young ones so that they know what happened. And as they're starting to get into it, verse 31, God says, I just found this very interesting, that he says in verse 31, and in the wilderness where thou hast seen how that the Lord thy God bare thee, as a man doth bear his son. Oh, the motherfucking brakes. How a man bears or takes care of his sons? About that, I could have a long list of instances where is God saying that murdering your children is acceptable? Because that's what he did. That's what he did to the children of Israel on multiple occasions. Numbers 25, two times in that one. He also, he was also not very forgiving or giving of second chances to the spies that went to go spy out the land and then came back with a negative report, being all fearful of the giants that were living in the land and everything. He doesn't say it here. He leaves it out that God sent a plague. It's in Numbers chapter 14, 36 and 37. Sorry, that's chapter 14, verses 36 and 37, where God says that they died by a plague. But that's conveniently left out here. Just fun fact there. And in fact, that's not even mentioning the whole issue with. You remember that time there was that guy named Korah and his family, and they kind of had a little bit of a rebellion, and God opened up the ground and unalived them all. As well as not to mention all the other times that God had people killed for hanging out with heathens that weren't even in the promised land. They were just being social. That's how, according to God, parents are supposed to treat their children. That's kind of weird. So I'm feeling as a man doth bear his son here is kind of a bit of a overstatement as to God or Yahweh's way of caring for his people. And then Moses comes down here. He's going on and he's talking about the time. Actually, no. He's going on and on about that time with the spies, but also Joshua and Caleb. It's actually interesting. He talks about Caleb. He's got a verse for both Caleb and Joshua, talking about how awesome they are. But for some hilarious reason, right in between them, Moses just shoves, because remember, Moses wrote these books, supposedly. And right between these verses, Moses shoves this verse right in the middle, referring to a completely different story. Where he says, in verse 37, "Also the Lord was angry with me for your sakes, saying, Thou also shalt not go in thither," as into the promised land. But here's the problem with that verse. Moses says that God is angry with him because of the Israelites. And that is why he's not going into the promised land. Here's the thing, that's a lie. That is a lie right there, my friends, because that story that he's referring to is in Numbers chapter 20, verses 7 through 11. That is the story of where the children of Israel are kind of thirsty. And justifiably so, they go to Moses and they're like, "Can we get some help? We're kind of parched here." And and according to Moses, they're complaining, they're like over the top, like they're being drama queens all the way. And in this particular instance, God tells Moses. There's another time where God does tell Moses to hit a rock, but that's not this time. No, this time God tells Moses, "I want you to speak to the rock." And instead of doing that, Moses hits the rock, has to hit it twice before the water comes out magically, and all the children of Israel drink to their heart's content. Moses left out the fact here in Deuteronomy that it was Moses' choice to hit the rock twice. But he lays the blame entirely on the people of Israel. Nice job, Moses. Nice job. And it's actually funny, because it's like, what makes it even better is that it happens again. Moses says it again. A few chapters later, in chapter 3, he's actually pleading with God, asking him, please let me into the land, the promised land. And it's freaking hilarious. I read everything that's here about it. And verse 26, it says, "But the Lord was wroth with me," angry, that is, "for your sakes, and would not hear me. And the Lord said unto me, let it suffice thee. Speak no more unto me of this matter. Translated into modern day talk, bitch, shut the fuck up. That's basically what God said. He was not hearing Moses out. And, it makes me wonder. It doesn't say anything here that Moses sacrificed any sheep. It doesn't say here that he admits or apologizes for hitting the rock instead of speaking to it, as in apologizing to God for not following his instructions. There's none of that here. And Moses is somehow expecting this very bloodthirsty deity to just be like, oh yeah, no, that's fine. Come on right in. Nah, it's all good. It's all good. I'm totally not gonna... Bitch, get the fuck out of here. Don't ask me again. You might not even get into heaven. That's not in here. That was just ad-lib. But that's the level of dick that Moses is kind of portraying himself to be here. He's not even... He's consistently... He is twice putting the blame completely on the children of Israel instead of taking any responsibility for himself. What the fuck, bro? Seriously. Where's the maturity? Come on. This is embarrassing. This is embarrassing for Moses. But then we have this brief little break. Because the Bible isn't all bad. Just a lot of it. But, like I said, not all of it. And we're actually about to have a small moment of goodness here. And, okay, I'll be honest, it's possible I may have missed a bit or two here and there. I've done my best. There's a lot of boring parts in the Bible. And so sometimes I scan through and there's little tidbits that I miss along the way. It may have happened once or twice. But I try and be as thorough as I can and as honest as I can about what is legitimately good that happens or is said or is portrayed as a good thing in the Bible as much as I can. Because there is good stuff in there. I mean, just wait till we get to the book of Ecclesiastes and Proverbs. It's going to take us a long ass time to get through those because those aren't even stories. That's just advice. And some of it is actually genuinely good. Some of it is genuinely usable in real life. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Right now, we are where we are. And where we are consists mostly of stories. Thank goodness. Because stories are way more fun to go through, aren't they? So here we just have a couple brief verses where they're talking about where they're traveling through the land. And I just thought this was cool because it says, Moses says, "And the Lord spake unto me, saying, Ye have compassed this mountain long enough. Turn you northward." He's telling them to move out. And he says, "And I command thou the people, saying, Ye are to pass through the coast of your brethren, the children of Esau, which dwell in Seir, and they shall be afraid of you. Take ye good heed unto yourselves, therefore. Meddle not with them. For I will not give you of their land, no, not so much as a footbreadth, because I have given Mount Seir unto Esau for possession. So translated into modern English, what that basically means is that God is telling Moses that they're about to pass by the land that belonged to the descendants of Esau. Esau is the brother, for those of you who don't remember or don't know, Esau is the brother of Jacob, who is the son of Isaac, who is the son of Abraham. And so he's like, I mean, they're not Israelites. No, they're not. They are not where Arabs come from. Maybe some branch of them do, perhaps. I don't really know, but the main Arabs come from Ishmael, who were, well, according to the Bible, was also a son of Abraham by Isaac. By Hagar, the Ishmaelite woman. I can't remember what she was. The son was Ishmael. The woman, I can't remember what the woman was, but she was one of Abraham's slaves and one of his wife's handmaidens. That's where they came from. Esau is someone else entirely. But I just thought it was interesting that God makes it a point to tell him, hey, actually leave these people alone. They're scared of you. I don't know why he said that, but he's like, they're scared of you, but don't fuck with them. Like, I've given them a certain amount of land. Leave them alone. Now, at face value by itself, that's great. And like that's positive. Hey, you're actually leaving someone alone. You're letting them mind your own business. You're letting them mind their own business for once. Good for you. Good for you for taking a break. Maybe Moses knew that they couldn't take him. I don't know. I don't even know where. I don't know where this geography is. Right? Maybe it wasn't great lands either. Who knows? I'm sure an expert does. I don't. But, at face value, they're leaving these people alone. They're minding their own business. Thumbs up for God. Woo. Someone throw a party. This shit doesn't happen very often. Okay, back to the interesting shit. Moses is reviewing his stories, and, I looked up what I could here. Oh, yeah, by the way, that last story about Esau, couldn't find it in Numbers. Tried to, didn't see it. I don't know where he pulled that one from. Maybe that's an addition. I don't know, but I did not see it in Numbers. Anyways, he's going on with these stories, and I was like looking him up, and I was like, yep, this checks out. Yep, this happened. Yep, this was in Numbers. And then I see this shit. Some little details that were not mentioned in the original stories that I thought you might find interesting. Now, the original stories take place in Numbers 21, verses 21 through 35. And the story is regarding, well, actually two small stories, are talking about these kings. Sihon, the Amorite king, king of Heshbon. Wait, is that two? Is that one or two? Anyways. And then Og, king of Bashan. Who gives a fuck, right? At a glance, yeah. And in the previous stories, that's kind of what it was. Like, they showed up, came out to fight, we kicked their asses, woo, move on to the next place. Well, Moses decides to drop these fun little details about both battles and what happened afterwards that are not mentioned in the book of Numbers. Remember, the stories happen originally in Numbers 21, chapter 21, verses 21 through 35. Here, we are in Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 30, where it says, But King Sihon, Sihon, king of Heshbon, that is one guy, would not let us pass by him, for the Lord, oh my gosh, where have we seen this before? For the Lord thy God hardened his spirit, and made his heart obstinate, that he might deliver him into thy hand, as appeareth this day. Ooh. Okay. You know what? That wasn't in the original story either. That's not in the original story, but where have we seen that before? Oh, yeah. Egypt. You remember Moses and the 7 plagues? And God saying, I will harden Pharaoh's heart. And it literally spelling out multiple times throughout the story. You remember that? We had a whole fucking episode about that. It was great. I can't remember how many times it was, but multiple times. It says that God hardened the Pharaoh's heart. And for the exact same reason, God straight up tells Moses, hey, get your ass up and go tell Moses, I'm going to fucking send these plagues on you so I can show off. Literally. Where'd that card go? Exodus 9:16. That's where it is. Exact same vibe as right here in verse 30. Where he says, the Lord thy God hardened his spirit, made his heart obstinate, stubborn. Basically, God brainwashed him. This is another account of God admitting to brainwashing someone. Forcing them to go against their will, whatever their free will might have been. That he might deliver him into thy hand. So he could show off his ability. Then, here's the other part of the story that isn't in the original Numbers account. Sihon came out against us. He and all his people fight. They had a place called Jahaz. And then the Lord our God delivered him before us. We smote him and his sons and all his people. Exact same as the original account so far. And we took all his cities at that time and utterly destroyed the men and the women and the little ones. Anakin Skywalker would have loved this story. Of every city, we left none to remain. That's not in the original Numbers account either. Nor is this one. Chapter 3. Don't worry, we're just going to read one verse this time. And we utterly destroyed them, as we did unto Sihon, king of Heshbon, utterly destroying the men, women, and children of every city. So, what does that all have to do with narcissism? Well, if we say, even if let's start with just Moses here for a second. Let's just focus on him. Is Moses a narcissist? Narcissist. Or let's measure him up against the definition of narcissism. What do we have? Well, the first one, sense of self-importance. Well, if Yahweh isn't real, hypothetically speaking, if Yahweh isn't real, that means Moses would have had to make all this shit up. Beginning all the way back at the burning bush, when God supposedly said that Moses was a chosen one, a very special person, and God and Moses had to have this whole argument about being humble or not being capable and not being grand or awesome, and but he sure really makes it a point. Number 2, preoccupation with power. If hypothetically speaking Yahweh isn't real, what happened to Korah and his followers? Did the ground actually open up, or is that just a cover-up story written by Moses, since he wrote the book? Why? What reason are we given to trust him? I guess not to mention all the other people that died, trying to exercise their free will, wanting to, Korah and his people. There were multiple revolts. There were multiple times where people wanted different leaders, and Moses did what he had to. If Yahweh isn't real, Moses did what he had to keep the power multiple times. Right after Korah and his family disappeared, Moses arranged this, or God, you could say, arranged this special little tournament to see who of the leaders of all of Israel's walking sticks could grow flowers. And Moses somehow knew to do it for Aaron's rod, so that everyone knew that Aaron was the chosen one. But God couldn't do that before opening the ground up and killing Korah and all his followers. And then there are other times throughout later where, hypothetically speaking, if Yahweh isn't real, Moses commands people to die in the name of God for going off and hanging out with other nations, just having fun, not even in the land that they live in, that they're going to occupy. They're not at the promised land. And Moses is deliberately sending people out of their way to kill their own people that are exercising their own free will. Numbers 16 and chapter 31, verse 14. Oh yes, number 16 and chapter 17 as well. Then we have narcissist character trait number 3. They can only be around people who are important or special. I'll be fair. There's not really any proof of this one. You could make an argument, as Moses stopped taking as much direct what's the word I'm looking for? He basically started, he stopped working with the people directly himself as much. But it was, I say, and I agree, that it was for a logical reason. It's a lot of people to try and answer to try and help in a nation. He had to spread the load out between other people who could help answer the people's questions. I don't know if all these teachers went to a boot camp of some kind that Moses orchestrated and taught them all in a crash course week everything that they needed to know. That's not mentioned in the Bible anywhere, but he pulled them out of somewhere to where he wouldn't have to deal with the common public anymore. For better or worse. But one could argue that there's a good chance that he did not affiliate with the common people very much. But again, no real evidence for that here. Manipulative. Well, hypothetically speaking, if Yahweh isn't real, then Moses had something to do with those plagues. He knew how to do something. We're finding out from archaeology all the time how much smarter people were back then than we actually give them credit for. And if that isn't enough, we have the evidence right here of Deuteronomy chapter 1 verse 37, as well as chapter 3 verse 26, where Moses shifts blame. He tells the people of Israel in front of him, he says, it's your fault I'm not getting into the promised land, because God was angry with me for your sake. Without bothering to mention, he was the one that chose to hit the fucking rock. He was being manipulative. Definitely checks that one out. Number 5, arrogant and entitled. Well, hypothetically speaking, that kind of connects with the very first one, sense of self-importance. He wants everyone to think that he's something special. And he says that in Numbers 12, verse 3. There's a story going down in that chapter. And there is no reason for verse 3 to be inserted there. But Moses supposedly wrote the Bible. And in that verse, he just decides to write. Now Moses was very humble, very upstanding. In the sight of the Lord, there was none like him. Or something very close to that effect. You can look it up yourself. Now, I was told of a rule that applies to kings. Not just kings in actual royalty, but this is also a matter of personality, of self-confidence. And honestly, I think the same thing applies to humility. And that is this. A king never announces himself. He never has to say, I am the king. He always has someone else do it. His reputation is so royally fucking high that his reputation precedes him. It precedes him so hard, he could pay someone else to do it. For a living. It's a freaking job to announce that he's on the way. So he doesn't have to do it himself. Humility works the same way. If you're actually humble, if you are serious about not putting yourself out there and above, you don't make it a point to talk about yourself and how humble you are. Like when I read Numbers 12:3, the song So Humble by that band, what's it called? I just had it. Lonely Island. Because I'm so humble. It's such a fun song. And that Bible verse makes me think of it, and vice versa. Moses would be a great person to sing that song, from what it's looking like here. Number 6, he must be admired. Or the narcissist must be admired. And, well, I mean, what else would Moses have written about himself in one of his own books? Moses is so humble. It's so people would look up to him, so people would admire him, think how fucking cool he is. Shit, he's even got a story about how his face glows. Probably not true either. Number 7 of the narcissistic character traits, lack of empathy. Well, if you've watched any of the previous episodes, hypothetically speaking, if Yahweh doesn't exist, yeah, Moses definitely doesn't have any, since he commanded genocide multiple times. But we're not even going to bother looking those up if you haven't been keeping up with us so far, because we got 2 examples right here. Yeah, we already talked about them. Right here, Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 34, and chapter 3, verse 6. Oh yeah. Those stories that included the genocide that was not originally in the book of Numbers. Yeah. And I completely forgot about God hardening the heart of the one king. It was just the one king. Just the one king. The other one didn't need it. The other one was angry enough. He was ready to go fight. But the other one, that one needed brainwashing. That one wasn't going to be compliant enough to fight. He was going to be more peaceful. I guess. Why else would God bother to brainwash him and make him go fight? Like, is it because he wasn't gonna? Because it wasn't gonna go your way? That's what you make it look like when you admit to that sort of shit. You did it for the one king, but not for the other. It's not. But of course, hypothetically speaking, God isn't real, so what the fuck? But Moses commanded it then. Hypothetically, Yahweh isn't real, so it was all commanded by Moses. Whoopsie. Oh yes, and then we have number 8. Envious of others or think they are being envied themselves. I'll be fair again. I really don't know for sure if this was on Moses' mind. There's not really any evidence of it here. If we borrow from Yahweh's personality and the fact that Moses wrote all this, if Yahweh doesn't exist and Moses wrote all this, and Yahweh is a reflection of Moses' personality, dang, I would not want to be Moses' friend. Whoo-wee. But, okay. Even if we don't count that one, as there's no direct evidence of Moses being envious. He definitely got angry. He definitely lacked empathy because, oh man, He got angry at the officers that one time for sparing the kids. That happened. That was one of the recent ones. That was, I believe that was the one in Numbers 31? Or is that Numbers 25? It was very recent. Hang on. I got it. I thought I wrote it down, but I didn't leave enough hints in my note as to what that one was. There it is. Yeah, I didn't see the other one. Where the... Oh, there it is. Yeah. It's chapter 31 of Numbers. Verse 14 and 15 and 17. Oh, it's bad. Oh, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. Moses was wroth with the officers of the host, with the captains over thousands and captains over hundreds, which came from the battle. Moses said unto them, have ye saved all the women alive? He's mad because the women were saved alive. Strangely enough, because they were the problem to begin with. You know, they tempted a man of Israel, the single men, to sin, to go have fun, to go socialize, to exercise their free will. Now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman that hath known man by lying with him. Oh, but let's not forget verse 18. After all the infant slaying and all the non-virgin slaying. Verse 18, but all the women, children that have not known a man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves. Moses said that. Yeah. So, how does Yahweh line up? Well, this should be pretty quick. Self-importance. Well, burning of the bush is a big one right there. He's very much so, I'm everything. I'm the big bad baddie. The 10 Commandments, thou shalt have no other gods before me. And preoccupation with power. Well, he can't even be bothered to be challenged by mere mortals. He makes the ground open up and swallow them. Oh, yes, and, not to mention all the people that he commanded to be killed in Numbers chapter 16 and 17, and, what he approved of that happened in chapter 31, verse 14, and, all the way through 18, and, oh, yes. Number 3, can only be around people who are important or special. Oh, well, you remember that whole religious system he set up, right? Only high priests can see him. And Moses. That's it. Moses. A few times a year. And Aaron one time a year. And everyone after him one time a year. That's it. So he kind of smashes that one. 5, arrogant and entitled. Yeah, well, I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Kind of the same thing. Being so quick to kill people, to command Moses to slaughter people, which happened so many times throughout the book of Numbers. Absolutely insane. must be admired. You shall keep the Sabbath day holy. Don't work on it. Me. And so many frickin' verses about laws and bloodshed and being worshipped. And what was that? It was like volunteer offerings or something. It was ridiculous. Free will offerings. It was oxymoronical as fuck. That he's all about himself. He's all about being admired. And then, number 7, lack of empathy. Well, again, we have that in many of the previous stories in the book of Numbers, but again, echoed here of these wonderful bits that we were not privileged to in the book of Numbers, in Deuteronomy 2:34 and 3, verse 6, where Moses clarifies that they committed genocide again, twice. That's quite a number of times. Yeah, I should go back and count sometime. Oof. Can only imagine. And then, number 8, envious of others, or think they are being envious. Mainly the envious of others worship, of others' attention. And that one is all the way back in Exodus 34. Damn it, I believe that's a 14. Now I gotta make sure. But that gives me the excuse to directly quote it as well. Which is important, because, you know, and I'm also going to look it up real quick, because I'm pretty sure there's a verse that says that jealousy is a sin. But the problem is with that, is that God, in Exodus, what was it? In Exodus 34:14, Yahweh says, shit, I'm in the wrong chapter. He says in Exodus 34:14, "Thou shalt worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God." Now, what was that verse that says that jealousy is a sin? I'm about to look that up real quick. And of course, I completely forgot. It was actually one of the 10 Commandments. In Exodus 20:17, it says, "Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thy neighbor's wife, thy oxen," and blah, blah, blah. Basically, don't covet. Don't be jealous. Don't be envious of other people's shit. Don't be jealous in general. Don't be envious in general. And yet, God literally says in chapter 34:14, "My name is envy. My name is jealousy." And it even says in the New Testament, in James chapter 3, verse 16, "For where jealousy and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work." course, the King James Version translates the word as envy, but other more modern translations say it as jealousy. And again, we can't be jealous of all these things. Can't be jealous of attention of other people because jealousy is bad. But God, whose name is jealous, we're supposed to be holy like he is holy, but we're not supposed to be jealous like he is jealous. Like, motherfucker, make up your mind. Anyways, that's what we have for today in the book of Deuteronomy. Tune in next time to find out whatever the fuck is next, because I have not read that far yet. But I am excited to find out and to compare the stories, to see what's new and to see what's changed. And you all have a wonderful rest of your week, and until next time we see you, stay safe, my friends, and until then, farewell.